Welcome, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the TeamLiquid.net Altitude Invitational Tournament. I am Sean, Day 9 Plot, and joined with me today is Chill. How are you doing this fine morning, Chill?
I am doing pretty good, Mr. Day 9. I'm a little sleepy because we had the MSL finals last night, but that's the life of a StarCraft nerd, man. You gotta make the run, go see the MSL, you gotta come home, cast some games, and I'm sure everyone else who's gonna be watching is just as tired, but
yeah,
you gotta live that life.
I was down in San Diego myself, so of course there's the good old 2-hour drive down and back for that. But of course, such is our devotion to this game. And we do indeed have a sick lineup of matches coming up today. We have only 4 players in this invitational, but we will be playing the whole tournament out all today. We have White Ra versus TesteR, and Idra versus TheLittleOne. So let's talk a little bit about our second match first, which is going to be Idra against TheLittleOne. Tell us a little bit, Chill, what you know about these two players.
Well, I mean, Idra, he catches a lot of shit for both his personality and his playstyle. People call him the robot. That may or may not be justified. His Zerg style is very, very strong. He played that match against Noni, I believe, in the HDH semifinals after the Roach nerf, and a lot of people were saying Idra can only play with Roaches, he's going to get destroyed, and he showed us a really strong style in ZVP there, and I've seen a lot of strong games with him with a lot of variety, so I really like Idra's macro-heavy, very, very solid Zerg play style, and I mean the TheLittleOne, he's a fan favorite, a personal favorite. I just think everyone knows who he is. He's got the sickest builds that you have just never seen until he uses them. I'm very, very excited for this this match specifically. Who do you pick to be the favorite in that match?
Well, I picked whatever TheLittleOne's strategy is to be the favorite. At the very least, his strategy will make the match incredibly cool, so I'm eagerly awaiting that second match. But of course, our first match coming up right out the gate is going to be White Ra against TesteR. And White Ra, of course, the extraordinarily famous European player, the hero Protoss, who is, of course, one of the oldest people in the gaming circuit. He's, what, like 29? Oh, God, so old. But of course, he's been playing StarCraft 1 for an incredibly long time. And StarCraft 2, he has also been mass gaming hardcore, performed brilliantly in the HDH Invitational where he defeated Idra in the finals. But he is up against TesteR, who's a little bit unknown in the TeamLiquid community. The most that really anyone knows is that Artosis absolutely loves him and is convinced that he is one of the best players in the world. So what information do you have about TesteR that you could add?
The only things I've seen of him are through Artosis, as you said. I can't add too much except there was an interview with him that he thinks Terran is the best race. I believe that's what he said. And, Artosis has always been hyping the Asian players, saying they're just a level above the rest of the foreigners. So because of this segregation of the different communities, I love when we get to see one of their players, get injected into our tournaments. We can finally see these players come together and put some results on the table. And I'm excited to see. I feel like foreigners have a very, even though it's a very dynamic playstyle, we go for the same sort of things, the same sort of unit compositions. TesteR is a bit of a wild card to me because he comes from the Asian server. We might see a lot of strategies that we're not used to seeing just in standard tournaments with the Western players.
Absolutely. So we are going to jump into Game 1 right now. We are going to be going into TesteR against White Ra, and the first map is, of course, the best map to always begin any real-time strategy game, Map 1. It is Lost Temple coming up, and we are just waiting for the replay to load, and we will jump right into it. And it is now loaded, and we are looking at White Ra. He's spawning in the north position as the blue Protoss, and of course, White Ra does that White Ra-style split where he sends 2 probes at a time. But they all get there eventually, and we do have TesteR spawning as the red Protoss pieces in the south. One thing I do know about TesteR, he did have some replays that were released in the GosuCoaching.com tournament, where he did play an extraordinarily gateway-heavy style, so that was, of course, very fun to watch, to see his use of warp gates. And, of course, we have to thank our extraordinary sponsor, Altitude, for helping host this tournament. It's always awesome when someone helps support the esports community, and also when it's just an awesome game. I don't know how much Altitude you've played, Chill, but I've definitely downed countless hours on that game myself.
Oh, really? I actually personally haven't played it, but these kind of games that can be played at a really high level, I actually don't like playing them unless I can sink my teeth into them. So I've watched a lot of Altitude, and the game just looks
Really?
ridiculously fun. And there's a lot of videos up on YouTube. So seriously, thanks a lot to those guys. And I kind of like the format of this. It's just like down and dirty, 4 really good players, grind it out. We're done in
Uh-huh.
a day, and let's see what happens.
And we do have White Raw already building a gateway on 12. Excellent timing for a gateway, and we see that TesteR is doing the same. Both players scouting, but looks like TesteR was sending out that probe a little bit earlier. He wants to be able to get as much sense of what White Raw's doing as he can. Don't know how much experience TesteR has had on the other servers. I do know that White Raw loves just bombing the other servers and training a lot. And wow, very late gas by White Raw. Gas on 15 at his expo. And now on Protoss vs. Protoss on this map, what are some techniques you like to use to try to win?
Well, if it's a very flat map like Kulos Ravine, I like doing actually the 4-gate and putting a proxy pylon in their main, in their mineral line, and trying to warp in for a quick win like that. But I really don't feel like that's the kind of thing I like to do on Lost Temple, at least myself specifically. So I favor going for a 2-gate robo, a little bit safe, slower expansion, get the Colossus out. That's the kind of style I favor. So I'm going to be interested to see what these guys tend to favor in this match, especially because they're cross-positioned, so that kind of rules out some of the very quick rushes.
Absolutely. And we do have the second gas going down right now at that rightmost expo. Both players are getting the chance to scout one another out. We do see that TesteR manages to get that pesky probe in there, tases that pylon a little bit. And that's one of the best parts about StarCraft 2 is how weak pylons are. Literally one worker can just like wail on it until it dies, so... not that that's ever happened to me like five or six times in a row, but I mean, it's definitely something to be concerned about. And we do see that chrono boosted stalker coming out for White Raw, and likewise in TesteR's base we see the exact same thing. TesteR revealing his plans a little bit, demonstrating that he is getting that warp gate early. No warp gate by White Raw. I'm not so sure I like that. I feel like you do need to rush to get warp gates in this matchup.
Yeah, I don't know what he's thinking, not immediately getting the warp gate when the cybernetics core is going up, unless he wants to clear out the scout and then put down a Stargate or something similar like that. No, it's a robotics coming down for White Raw. So 1-gate robotics. Wow, we're gonna have to see what comes out of that, if he's got any sort of Colossus rush plan or something based around Immortals. I just want to say that I've got the mini-map glitch going on right now, so thank you to Blizzard for that. It's testing my hotkey APM as I'm jumping with the F keys back and forth between mains.
Well, of course, this is why we like to have a pro gamer co-caster, so someone who can keep up with the button mashing. But okay, I'll try to pop back and forth between the bases as much as possible to keep you on your feet. I really like very fast robos in this matchup. I do like getting the Colossus very quickly if you end up skipping many sentries, if you end up delaying that warp gate, focusing heavily on zealots, and just get the Colossi up very, very quickly, you can be in fantastic shape. Warp gate is just now finished for TesteR, and TesteR doing the TesteR style, just getting these 3 warp gates up very, very quickly. Would not be surprised to see some early aggression. And look at this over at the Gold Expo. TesteR has already thrown down a pylon, going to be doing some warping in action. And White Raw doesn't really have the biggest army, given how quickly he got those 2 gateways and the robo. Not so sure how I feel about that. But either way, still a relatively even game.
Yeah, there's a bit of a tense moment here. I mean, White Rod doesn't have that many units, as you said. He's still not getting warp gates, not even thinking about researching it and trying to get the robotics bait down. So, as I said, this is a bit of a tense moment where he's got the Immortal out, but this can be overrun by just 3 gateways warping in units by TesteR. So I'm not feeling that comfortable. There's 6 Stalkers now moving in. White Raw's got to be careful, especially with this Immortal. Taking a lot of Stalker fire right away. The shields are already down. Wow. And those Stalkers do a lot of damage against Zealots in this game. They're not like Dragoons. So, yeah, White Raw in a really difficult position right now.
And oh my god, look at this hallucination being researched by TesteR. He got hallucination very, very early on. And a 4th gateway going down as well. More units being warped in, extremely stalker-heavy army, especially for this matchups where players are generally favoring zealots and sentries to be able to deal with large stalker armies. And White Raw was outfooting his opponent early on, still is outfooting. Just now TesteR has caught up. We do see that 1 Colossus is already on way, and still no warp gate, and uncharacteristic uncharacteristic supply block there by White Ra. He needs to get this Colossus up if he wants to hope to stay alive. Sentries are out right now for TesteR, so he will be getting that hallucination in just a minute. I'm curious what unit he'll be hallucinating. Probably a Colossus to help him bust the front.
Right, and also to provide vision up the ramp. I'm so shocked he's not getting warp gates. I mean, it's not a big investment. It's just 50-50, and he's got 2 gateways, and I mean he's using them fairly regularly. He's got a lot of gateway units out there. So and looks like this Zealot in White Ra's main may be stuck between the Robo. Had he warped it out, that would not be there.
That's one of the worst parts about the smart rally points. If you set them at just the wrong angle, they can backfire. And there's the hallucinated Colossus. He's coming up the ramp. Oh, huge damage being done by that Colossus. But, oh my god, this Colossus by TesteR, the hallucinated one, is taking so much vision away from White Ra. And look at this. Look at TesteR just decimating this army. Oh my goodness. The 4 warp gates have demolished his front. Is there any way White Ra can come back from this?
No, there isn't. This is a very nice timing by TesteR, especially getting the hallucination. I really like this play. White Ra trying to get up his ramp, but he gets sniped by that Stalker. And now the fake Colossus going to work on the probes. But everything getting cleaned up. Nice force field there, just blocking units. White Ra trying to bring in more units, but I mean, what can he do? Basically nothing at this point. I feel like he made a bit of a misstep there when he saw all the Stalkers moving to his main. He got an Observer out before his first Colossus. And I think had he looked at the unit composition, he would have seen that's not necessary. And he could have got that Colossus out, possibly a second one. But we see TesteR finishing it just very quickly in Game 1.
Yeah, good game for White Ra, already taking the series to 1-0 for TesteR. And I honestly think it was a little bit of a mistake for White Ra to emphasize so much gas early on in his units. I mean, he got the Stalker, and then he got a Sentry, and he got the Observer. All those eat into your ability to get the Colossus up very quickly. There's nothing wrong with getting that many Zealots early on. In fact, Zealots work beautifully with Colossi, especially in this matchup. They provide a nice huge wall for your Colossus to micro around. So I think that was a little bit of a blunder by White Ra. Definitely, absolutely shocked that he did not get those warp gates. I think that affected his gameplay significantly. Do you have anything else to add to this series before we pop into Game 2?
I want to revisit the, as you said, the warp gate skipping. I can see it early on, you know, you want to get that Robo down as everything hinges out of that if you're rushing for Colossus. But, I mean, it's 50-50, and you're going to get so many extra gateway units out of it. It's not like he was struggling to get enough minerals out of the 2 gateways and the robotics that he was using. So I think that was a bit of an uncharacteristic misstep for White Ra there in Game 1.
And of course, I mean, we cannot take away from the brilliance of TesteR in that circumstance. Getting the hallucinate so early, and what impresses me so much is that TesteR really did not have that much information when the hallucination was started. He did the standard warp gate into 3 gates, and then he immediately got hallucination when his warp gate finished. It was almost practically queued up after the warp gate, and holy cow did that work beautifully. It makes you wonder what his plan was if he didn't end up using the Colossus. He could have gotten the Phoenix out to scout, could have just gotten the Colossus to scout, I guess, as well, if you want to just have a big guy crawl up into his main and say, surprise, I see what's up now. Yeah. But, either way, very interesting play from TesteR. Delighted to see that sort of cool play from Asia. So we will be moving on to our second game on Metalopolis in just a moment.